Who's ready? You better buckle up, because things are about to get awfully interesting right now. Pam Bondi, as the Attorney General of the United States of America, is going to be running right up against one Letitia James, who seems to be in the way of just about everything, along with a few other AGs and other officials around the country. Tom Homan pointing this out today.
Starting this morning with Department of Justice, and where do they cross that line of impediment? So they may find themselves in a pair of handcuffs very soon. So working with DOJ on that, get some legal...
You heard that? They may find themselves in handcuffs very soon. He's working with the DOJ on that as we speak. And guess who just came in? Wanting to make America great again, wanting to make America safe again. Donald Trump announcing Pam Bondi just yesterday.
Very simple. Make America great again. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make America great again. And she's going to take crime out of the system. As much as anybody can do that, she's going to do it.
We're going to make America safe again.
You better believe it. But, you know, that's not easy to do when you get a lot of people like Letitia James and a few others along the way that want to impede you at every single juncture. And it's getting pretty bad, judging by what we're seeing from one Tom Homan and some of his comments. So AG Pam Bondi, she's, you know what, that's fine. That's fine. Because ultimately here, the feds are in charge. I mean, if there's one thing that the federal government actually really and truly is in charge of, it would be the border and immigration. So you want to play that game? Well, guess what? We don't have to send you any money. We're going to shut it all off. No more federal funding for sanctuary cities. You guys are in the way. And you know what? It could get a whole lot worse than that. As Tom Homan said, you may find yourself in handcuffs. Letitia James, you may find yourself indeed in handcuffs. Letitia says, no, we're ready for this. I've been preparing for this day. This is exactly what she said right after Trump was elected.
With other Democratic AGs across this country to make sure that we would be ready to respond to any attempt to roll back our rights. So here we are. We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns. We've created contingency plans. So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready. We're ready to respond to their attacks. We're ready to respond to any attempts to cut or eliminate any funding to the great state of New York, as the governor outlined.
Boom! You see that? And that's exactly what Pam's doing. She's cutting your funding. Letitia's all worked up about this. Here she is just the other day.
Not only does this administration's new policy put people at risk, but it is plainly unconstitutional.
I'm not so sure about that. I think it's actually rather unconstitutional what you're doing in light of the federal government having the jurisdiction here, one Letitia James. You saw her tweet the other day. I've shown this to you guys. New York law has laws that protect immigrants and limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement efforts. Those laws should be followed by law enforcement and officials in our state. I'll always uphold our laws and protect immigrant New Yorkers, except here's the problem. The federal government has jurisdiction over this. We've been over this, guys. I mean, whether you want to talk the Commerce Clause, whether you want to talk Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, this is where it comes from. So, you know what? I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that Pam Bondi is probably a much smarter attorney than one Letitia James ever dreamt of being. Okay, she went to Harvard. I'm sorry. Am I going to get in trouble for saying maybe that was DEI? I don't think she's the brightest. You know why? I know that because she was out there bringing one stupid lawsuit, one after another. She sued Trump 100 times while she was there. But she thought she really, hit it big when she'd go after him and she'd get the judge to go along with nearly a $500 million fine because she thinks Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, despite the fact it makes 56. I'll never get over this. I mean, this is really destructive. And she's such an idiot that she did this. She sent it to the appeals court, and the woman up there having to argue Letitia James's case. Again, this is how I know Pam is so much smarter. I mean, she was nearly thrown out of court before she got a word out.
May it please the court, Judith Vail for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated...
Ms. Vail, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners, where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely concerned inherently subjective valuations of properties and businesses.
Yes.
And where the victim never complained about any fraud in the transactional losses from it. Because I've gone through the cases which you've cited, and all of them always involved the consumer protection aspect. It involved protection of the market.
Several responses.
And I want to add to his question, and little to no impact on the public marketplace.
Exactly. So why did Letitia James bring that? Yeah, we know why. She brought it. Political reasons, political reasons, political reasons. And now, for more political reasons, she's standing in the way of Tom Homan being out there trying to do his job. In fact, it's rather sort of unbelievable. He's out there trying to do a raid. I mean, they're not messing around. All right, let's just take a look. I want to show you something that aired on Fox. He was showing kind of what goes into this and what his goals were for an upcoming raid. Take a look.
Federal agents from ICE, HSI, DEA, FBI, ATF, and CBP, all targeting alleged members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
Tom, you guys have hundreds of people out here. What's the goal today?
The goal today is send a message to TDA that we're going to eradicate them from this country. There's no safe harbor. There's no sanctuary for them folks.
Well, I mean, of course, unless you're in New York. Unless you're in New York and you have Letitia James protecting you, and she's doing so at odds with the federal government. Tom Homan says people are tipping people off about this stuff, and this is unacceptable. Here he is, just a short time ago, appearing on Fox and saying, listen, you know what, you're going to get hauled off in handcuffs yourself. He's working with Pam Bondi as we speak. They're working on the law here because Letitia James, I'm sorry, honey bunny, you're going to jail if you keep this up.
When they come to they cross the line of impediment, and that's why I'm working very close, starting this morning with Department of Justice, and where do they cross that line of impediment? So they may find themselves in a pair of handcuffs very soon. So working with DOJ on that, get some legal guidance on that. I'm not an attorney. I know what SecOps is about. I know what crossing that line is, but getting DOJ back up on that. So it's something we're looking at right now, Harris. We're not going to tolerate it anymore. This is not a game. When we show up these sites, this is a dangerous job for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol and all the DOJ agencies. To have that type of interference puts our officers at great risk. Not only the officers, it puts the aliens at great risk because anything can happen when we take our eyes off the goal here. So we're addressing that immediately today. I'm addressing OPSEC today, operational security, how these leaks are happening. We've already identified how this operation got leaked. I'll deal with that today.
It got leaked. So he's out there in Aurora, Colorado, trying to make sure that we get some of the worst criminals off the streets. ICE says we have 650,000 known criminals that are here illegally in the country, 50,000 of whom have criminal charges for homicide, and then you get another 20,000 with sexual assault charges. And lawmakers are getting in the way of that? And apparently not just lawmakers, people who have, their own sort of view of the world, if you would, including somebody from a Soros-owned radio station. Take a look at this one, guys. I want to share with you. This is out in San Francisco. Apparently, one of the anchors in San Francisco somehow got wind of some news that there was going to be a raid. So the FCC, run now by Brandon Carr, is not too happy about this. They're actually investigating this whole thing. It's KCBS. And they say it's actually an investigation into Audacity's San Francisco all-news radio station, where the host divulged the details of where some ICE agents were operating in the area in late January. So during the segment, an anchor revealed that ICE agents were conducting operations in eastern portions of the Bay Area, which included details on the make, model, and colors of unmarked vehicles being used in the operation. And so Carr did an interview with Fox Digital and said, listen, I want to express my thanks and appreciation to DHS and ICE agents. These law enforcement professionals are honorably serving this country, carrying out vital missions. Their safety is paramount. The FCC will hold broadcasters accountable for complying with their public interest obligations. You see, it's a radio station. It has public interest obligations. And you know who else has a public interest obligation to at least follow the law? That would be one Letitia James. But, you know, it's not like she's ever been so interested in enforcing the law except against Donald Trump in bizarre ways. I mean, so I suspect at this point, you know, you're talking about a woman like Pam Bondi who actually understands the law, and you've got a team of people that have been investigating this and looking at this for the last 4 years. They're ready. So Letitia, you may say you're ready all you want. I'm sorry. Honey bunny, your funding's been cut off. Pam is not messing around. Tom Homan is not messing around. And I think, you know, you better go back to law school pretty soon and maybe take a look at that Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, and understand the difference between the federal government and what you got going on there in New York. I'll tell you, she's unbelievable. Not even the governor of New York is threatening what Letitia James is threatening. So think about that, you guys. All they're doing is trying to be there to face off with Donald Trump. Somehow that's going to make her a bigger politician. In the meantime, we're learning some scary stuff. I got to tell you, like, I'm blown away by this. I'm an independent journalist now. I've worked in network news my entire career. I knew a few things went on, and I can tell you some stories, and sometimes I do. But this is mind-blowing. Because you think, well, okay, we're a commercial operation, you know, and we have advertisers, this, that, and the other. But you never think that we're NPR or PBS, publicly funded organizations. And they would say, oh, no, we only get 1% directly from taxpayers. We get another 8% of it, I think it's NPR, from the government as a whole. But 38% comes from foundations, and the rest comes from viewers like you. You know the drill, right? You wouldn't have thought that, say, the New York Times was getting government money, now would you? You wouldn't have thought Politico was getting government money, now would you? I mean, Politico could find itself going totally out of business. They couldn't even pay their employees this week. You know why? Elon Musk, Doge, they shut down the systems, which meant all that money that typically would come into a place like Politico wasn't coming in. And it doesn't seem like it may ever be coming back in. And you're talking about a whole lot of money. I mean, take a look at this. $8.2 million, 237 transactions. You know, it's really amazing if you look at this stuff, guys. Look at how much the money went up. Wow. You can really see it start to spike there. Like it's way down here. Do you see on the screen? Low, this little yellow line. It's way down in the doldrums. And then 2020 comes along. Well, what do you know? Politico's raking in the cash. And then you fast forward. Oh, wow, you get to 2024. And my goodness gracious, they're just like the mothership. I mean, look at how much money they were collecting. So why would this be? Oh, they say there's a simple explanation. You know, they were selling subscriptions to the government. Donald Trump had some fun with this. He knows that Politico may be going out of business very soon, and he kind of razzed him up a little bit. There at a breakfast this morning. Listen.
Well, did you see what happened yesterday where they found hundreds of millions of dollars of money was fraudulently given to newspapers and I guess Politico? I don't know. They're here. Good. I hope you're enjoying your breakfast.
Yeah, because it may be your last one. Oh, boy. So see this note that went out? Like never in the history of the company have they missed a pay period. But they had a payroll issue. And it's actually a German company, primarily a German company now, Axel Springer, that bought Politico for what? $1 billion, some crazy deal. So Goalie and the guy who runs it here in the U.S. wanted everybody to know that this morning's payroll issue directly, they wanted to speak directly about the payroll issue. He said, due to what we believe to be a technical error, just a glitch, guys, just a glitch, nothing to see here. Employees did not receive their paychecks as scheduled. We understand the urgency of this matter and sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. Our team is working diligently with our systems vendors and the bank to identify the root cause and implement a solution as quickly as possible. We will keep you updated as soon as we learn more, and we'll resolve the problem as quickly as possible. Thank you for your patience and understanding. If you have any immediate concerns, please feel free to reach out. Yeah, I mean, I might be a little concerned. You know what happened? They shut off the spigot. Hey, look at all that money that was coming in. They were still making a lot in the first month of the year, for goodness sakes, in 2025. Look at how much they were making. Well, all of a sudden, Elon and company, Doge, decides, yep, we're cutting this one off. This is not happening. And as a result, I'm telling you, I think I know exactly what happened. They didn't have the money in the bank. Right? They probably keep a very small amount of money in there, just what they need for payroll. They have certain expectations that things are coming in. You know, the government check, it usually doesn't bounce until Elon decides to get in the way of this and shut off your funding. So they froze the funding. Doge froze the funding. Treasury freezes all this stuff. They're like, the subscription to Politico for $8 million? I don't think so. And all of a sudden, they can't make payroll. It's pretty wild, right? I mean, now they're sending out, we're sorry. And you say, well, is the company going to go out of business? I mean, it's a real concern. If you're not going to have all this money piling in, it's a real concern. But, I think Axel Springer can.
USAID has gotten a lot of attention in the last couple of days with some of these bizarre things that we've been, taxpayers have been funding. Now it looks like there are a couple media outlets that have been dragged into this conversation as far as USAID funding as well. Does the president have any comment on that?
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than $8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The Doge team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see.
Okay. That was a lot of money they were getting. Just to kind of talk about those subscriptions. What do you know? $10,000 per year for a subscription to Politico. Now, apparently it was like super duper Politico, but they're no Bloomberg, thank you very much. So just exactly what are you going to do with all their insight and knowledge about politics for $10,000? That's pretty hefty. $8.2 million across 236 subscriptions over the years. Quote, we are proud of the value that our political pro platform and policy journalism gives to all subscribers. As a practical matter, the overwhelming majority of our professional subscriptions under Political Pro are in the private sector. It just so happens that we get a little money from the government on the side too. And you kind of wonder, why? Could it be because back in 2020, all those spies who came up with that letter, the 51X spooks and hacks that said, oh, this laptop is totally not what Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani think it is. No. This laptop is totally misinformation, disinformation, spread by the Russians. You need to know that. You need to understand it. And where did they put that story? Da-da-da, in Politico, where the government pays them $8.2 million across 236 subscriptions. And you know what's really amazing about those subscriptions? if you're a government worker, you don't even have a choice. Like, you work for the government, you get a Politico Pro subscription. Look at you, $10,000. Gosh, you know, you'd think that might just raise some eyebrows. Here's a guy, Sam Lyman. I want to share with you his tweet. So he used to work in the Senate. He's a policy guy, right? And he talked about this. He said, when I worked in the Senate, we all had Politico Pro by default. So you don't even have a choice. Like, they give it to you, whether you want it or not, because, hey, you know, they got to transfer money somehow. Usually they use an NGO. Here they just, I guess, used an actual quote-unquote subscription. I never signed up for it, he writes. So I can only assume it was a blanket deal Politico had worked out with the federal government. I never used it, not even once. Got zero value out of it. Gobsmacking to hear a subscription for $10,000. I mean, I'd say that this is a lot for a subscription. I got to talk to Rob. I don't think we're charging enough. Rob, 76research.com, everyone. I mean, you can get it for $1 a month for the first 2 months. Then it goes to $9.95. But clearly, I mean, there's a whole market out there that I never even figured out how to tap into. That would be USAID. That would be the U.S. government. Ours actually does have value, because you might actually make some money in the stock market if you follow what we're recommending. Oh, I'm getting all this. Like, my Irish keeps getting up, because I hear about this and I'm blown away and I'm so disgusted, and I knew exactly what was going on. Okay. So they found a way to make effectively transfer payments. And you noticed how the transfer payments were really coming into high gear in 2024. And they're going to sit back and say, oh, no, nothing to see here. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. We just sold Politico Pro and it cost $10,000 a year. There is no political subscription, mind you, that costs $10,000 a year. Absolutely not. I mean, that's the most wild, ridiculous thing I have ever heard. But go get a good subscription, would you? 76research.com, code word $, because this stuff is insane. And you know what? It's not just Politico. Like, it goes on and on and on. Let's take a look at some of the other stuff that was happening. New York Times. Oh, that lovely newspaper. I wondered why everybody was getting so far out over their skis and getting kind of crazy. I'm like, you know, Donald Trump, like, he's not that bad. Like, why are you making these wild comparisons all the time? Well, it turns out they had an incentive to do so. In the month of August of 2024, guess what? USAID gave the New York Times $4.1 million. Does the New York Times tell us this? Like, I mean, this is worse than PBS or NPR ever dreamed of being. And who knew it, right? You think that this is just, the New York Times, like, they're clean, right? No, they're not clean. I mean, this is a ton of money. 26.9, let's just call it $27 million. Guess where that came from? U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And then you had the National Science Foundation at $19.1 million. No wonder they loved Anthony Fauci as much as they did, huh? I mean, you had to keep that money spigot going. No wonder they can't stand RFK. That's all going to end. Check it out. Politico. Here are the grand totals that are being tallied up. The latest and greatest, and Doge has all this information, is somewhere around $34.3 million that they were getting from various government agencies. You had the New York Times totaled up to some $50 million from various government sources. AP, nearly $20 million in government contracts, $619,000 in grants from the Department of State, with funding spikes that happened miraculously in election years like 2020 and 2024. You had Reuters getting $9 million from the Department of Defense for active social engineering, whatever that is, huh? I mean, were they trying to create new X and Twitter accounts? $220,000 from the State Department just last year. And then the BBC, they were getting a lot of money. In fact, they actually said 8% of their income came from USAID. Imagine that. We are bankrolling the BBC. Doesn't sound very America First to me. Anyway, we're bankrolling them, and it came out, and now they responded, and they're like, yep, 8% of our income comes from USAID. I'm telling you guys, this is messed up. And I think it's going to get worse. I just have this little hunch, because I suspect this is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, what about all these NGOs? What about, say, the Clinton Global Initiative? Is this why Hillary's freaking out? Elon Musk, oh my God, he's the devil right now. He's mounting a, what does she say? Blitzkrieg-style administration coup of the U.S. government, accessing and editing critical systems that manage everything from Social Security payments to private taxpayer information. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to scare the heck out of everybody. Oh my gosh, your information is now vulnerable. Debbie Dingle was on there. She's the same one that said they were going to round up everybody in Michigan. Muslims had to be careful because they were going to put them in concentration camps. And then she came out and she said on CNN now, oh my gosh, watch out everybody, because they're going to get your information. They're going to do something with it. And if it's not the Democrats, that was their story today. The day before, it was, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to all these poor people around the world? Ilhan Omar is exceptionally upset about it all.
I am exceptionally upset about USAID. I lived in a refugee camp for 4 years as a child surviving civil war. It is the essential programs that USAID provided that kept my family and I fed and safe. It is the resources that so many people around the world rely on. And
really? Is it just about keeping people safe and fed? Because that's not what we're hearing. I mean, I'm seeing some pretty wild stuff, like $45 million for DEI scholarships in Burma. I'm seeing $3 million for girls-centered climate action in Brazil. Caroline Leavitt, the superstar new PR person. Boy, was that a good trade, huh? At the White House, she had a little more to say.
And I would just say a strong message to Democrats who are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding, like $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, $20 million on a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you. Democrats are outraged that the American people want to be, they want their taxpayers going to good uses, not stuff like this. But then they're very quiet about the fact that there are still North Carolinians and people in California who have lost everything. And in the last 4 years, this federal government did nothing to help them. This president will continue to put Americans first. And I think the successes of this week so far speak to that. And it's only Wednesday. So
listen, do you really want your hard-earned taxpayer dollar going to pay for things like DEI musicals in Ireland? Or a trans comic book in Peru? They spent $32,000 on that. $47,000 for a trans opera in Colombia. $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala. $6 million for tourism in Egypt. What the heck is going on? This is not okay. You know how hard we work? You know how high inflation is, and you're out there spending this $280,000 for diverse bird watchers? $1.5 million for DEI in Serbia. I mean, do they even have any diversity in Serbia? Maybe it's for the trans thing again. I'm sorry, you lost me, okay? You lost me, and you just lost America. You lost us. You lost the election, and you're losing us over and over and over and over again because you people just don't get it. You don't get it. I'll tell you, the guy over at CNN, Scott Jennings, he gets it. He gets it. I get it. Trump gets it. And he knows that the Democrats are going to continue to be so idiotic when it comes to this stuff because, I don't know, maybe they just have no brain cells.
He's describing what is currently the dumbest strategy in politics, which is Democrats taking the 20% side of every 80-20 issue in America. USAID, people want this pared down. They want it streamlined. They want to know where the money is going. Democrats have a meltdown. Today, Donald Trump signs executive order on keeping boys out of girls' sports. Democrats take the 20 side of that issue as well. All these issues, this is like Trump's superpower, finding a bunch of 80-20 issues, getting on the 80, and everybody who's sort of reflexively against him gets on the 20. And now the Democratic Party has like a 31% approval rating. This is why.
This is exactly why. Because who the heck wants to be spending $32,000 of your taxpayer dollars for trans comic books in Peru? Okay, like you guys, like, I mean, this is like, remember when we found out about the military and like the $2,000 toilet seat? Like this is that moment. This is that moment. We are learning of the disgusting things our government is spending money on for no reason, and they don't care. And then Chuck Schumer is out there fighting the good fight.
I'm going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. We will win. We will win. We will win.
No, you won't. Like, you're not going to win on this. And you can try every little tactic. I believe AOC's latest and greatest today is that, oh, this is just misinformation. All this stuff about 3 million for girl-centered climate change in Brazil and 125 million to radicalize public health, that's misinformation. You see, you need to know your facts.
The amount of misinformation that has exploded because people are chasing retweets of a lie has been really painful. Like, we are, especially in terms of social media, we are on the platforms of billionaires. And these billionaires modify these algorithms and they wield them politically. We see that most explicitly with Twitter, but it is also at play on Meta, on Facebook, etc. And, you know, I think it was really hard watching people and communities that I am aligned with fall for right-wing misinformation.
Okay, like, do we have to show her the Politico stuff again? Hey, honey bunny, you know what they were doing? They were manipulating the news. And so people had to go to other sources like this show right here. Please make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. I mean, we keep growing thanks to you. But the platforms, you think about all these platforms getting all this money, and she wants to say it's misinformation. No, like, this has actually all been proven out. It turns out the Hunter Biden laptop, oh yeah, that was real. And the FBI had been investigating that puppy since 2019. You know what else was real? The Wuhan virus, COVID, it came from the Wuhan lab. Another thing that was just not allowed to be talked about. And they were spending money hand over fist, especially at the New York Times, trying to make sure that that story wasn't allowed out. And you guys are going to sit there and say, oh no, it's misinformation. I think that we've actually already seen that play out. We've seen that play out and we're all over it. Really, really, really over it. You know, I'm just sort of blown away by everything they're doing, whether it's having the wrong agenda when it comes to understanding the value of money and how people actually want to keep it, or whether it's DEI. So a CNN panel went completely off the rails. I mean, really, 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 really off the rails, even for CNN, when a woman there said, you know, I used to think that this election really was about egg prices until I realized it was something else entirely. Yeah. Just watch.
Thought it was about eggs. Right. We're not talking about
it's not about
it. It's not about it. It was never about eggs. Yeah. It was about race. And if we're honest, if I see something, say something. We've been told that since we were kids. If you see something, say something. It's not about eggs.
It is.
It's not about. It's not. It's about making sure that there is white supremacy in this country. And if we're honest, we will say that. It is about making sure. We will make sure that people who DEI is really all these code words. You used to use woke. I asked you to define what woke meant. You couldn't really define it for me. Tell me what it means again.
Woke ideology is taking extreme views of American culture and trying to tear down America from the inside out and go outside of our cultural norms and invade every corporation, university, and other institutions.
What is DEI?
That's incorrect.
Tell me that's incorrect. But what is DEI? Tell me again.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, trying to guarantee outcomes instead of guarantee opportunity.
Cabinet looks like DEI.
I was speaking. If I could just
I do want us to not get off the rails because
she just said we're all white supremacists. We got to address this, don't we?
We have actually, believe it or not, a whole conversation on DEI coming up in the show.
Oh, good.
So they can't get away from this, right? They're trying to double down on this. They're trying to paint conservatives as bad, racist people that are white supremacists, etc. And it's like, guys, like, you lost on that. okay? Like, you got to actually reinvent here. What if we actually could really be a colorblind society and a real meritocracy? That's what we're going for, right? So they brought this woman in. Some Republicans recommended that this woman who is the governor, Kim Reynolds of Iowa, speak to everybody there on the Hill and talk about some of the programs that she was able to cut in the state of Iowa and save her state, her taxpayers, $200 million. So she's explaining this, it can be done. I did it. You can do it too. And what does Ayanna Pressley say? This is the Massachusetts woman who's a member of the squad. She brings it all right back to race, of course.
Governor Reynolds, my Republican colleagues invited you here today to promote what they see as a model of governance. Simply put, Republicans' vision of America is to be more like Iowa. Governor Reynolds, let's learn more about the state. Do you know what percentage of Iowans are white and what percentage are black?
I don't know the exact percentages, no. We're by far a larger percentage of white population.
That's correct. Iowa is 90% white and only 4.5% black. So that is drastically different from the national population. So when Republicans suggest Iowa should be a national model, they're advocating for a government that doesn't reflect our country. So let's talk about what this model of governance actually means in practice. In Iowa, you signed State Senate Bill 2385 to eliminate more than 80 state boards and commissions, including those representing Black Iowans, Latinos, women, people with disabilities, and Asian, Pacific Islanders, communities that are marginalized and vulnerable and have fought for decades to have a seat at the table. Now, Republicans call this fiscal responsibility. I just call it erasure. Governor Reynolds, the Iowa Legislative Services Agency conducted a nonpartisan analysis of that bill. Do you know how much money was saved when you eliminated those commissions?
Actually, it was not about saving money. It was about putting more resources behind the Department of Human Rights so that we could actually provide them more.
Oh, she doesn't want to hear the answer. You get it? I mean, just the squad lady gets to talk. That's the way it goes, right? And if you really think about what she's saying, just for a minute, isn't Presley actually kind of insulting an entire population of people? In other words, she's saying America can't do what Iowa did. We can't actually cut its budget because you don't have any black people there. Are you telling me that like black people need transfer payments? That's what this is about? We can't just actually be that real meritocracy that we all should want to be. And by the way, Martin Luther King wanted us to be, Junior. I mean, it's actually, if you think about the essence of what Ayanna Pressley was saying, that in and of itself is discriminatory and wrong. And all they want are more handouts, handouts, handouts. That's what the squad wants. And that's what they're going to push for. And I'm just being a realist. I mean, I'm telling you, it's not working. You should have listened to me, guys, like way back when I said, first of all, do not run Joe Biden. I'd primary him so fast. And, nobody listened to that. And how can you not get that it's the economy, stupid? And don't sit there and tell me that there's no inflation because wages are going up when you don't bother to look at the real wages, which are adjusted for inflation. These people are a bunch of idiots, and they're mad because Americans have finally figured it out. Okay, well, enough with the DEI woke stuff. Here's a little bit of good news. There's a Christian singer who's going to be singing at the Super Bowl this weekend. Her name is Lori Daigle. Now, this is really interesting, guys, because she's someone who was not allowed to sing not too long ago at a big event there in New Orleans. I guess she's from Louisiana originally, and she ran into a situation with the mayor. The mayor, who would be Latoya Cantrell, blasted her because she had done a worship tour. And, for whatever reason, you can't have the, I don't know, you can't have the Christian singer, let alone the white Christian singer. I mean, it's not in this like DEI world, right? Like we got to be more diverse. And so somehow she wound up on the wrong side of Latoya. And Latoya was like, yep, no, she's not going to be singing for the New Year's Eve festival. I'm going to make sure of it. She actually sent a letter to producers, the producers that were running the Dick Clark Rockin' Eve there in New Orleans. And she asked that they ban this extremely popular Christian singer from appearing at that. So apparently the producers acquiesced and this girl got banned. It's like cancel culture all over again. And now here's the good news. She's going to be singing at the Super Bowl. She talked about this actually on a podcast recently. I want to play you a soundbite.
The mayor came out and said, of you, that you placed residents in danger. And then she urged Dick Clark Productions. You were supposed to sing at the Rockin' New Year's Eve celebration from New Orleans. They bumped you off the roster. You weren't invited.
Yeah, I was definitely not invited. And I think from that letter, too, she quoted, she's a weapon to society. And I went home to Lafayette and I got in my parents' bed and I pulled the covers over my head. As an adult, I was like, oh gosh, here we are again. Because there's no amount of public ridicule that is fun. What I learned is that when people need an element of hope, coming together is one of the most beautiful things. It is one of the most incredible rights that we have in this country. It is. And I think to take that away from people is so disheartening, especially in a time like that.
Do you feel vindicated?
Yes.
5 years later, and here you are, about to open on one of the biggest stages in the world at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So to get this moment years later, I would say for anybody watching that has had their reputation smeared in any sort of way, and they are just waiting for the moment of vindication, sometimes it only takes 5 years.
Isn't that great? So anyway, she's going to be singing at the Super Bowl, America the Beautiful. Quick shout out to Exploration Adventures. Thank you so much for your generosity. We appreciate it, getting a super chat coming in. I think it's great. So she is feeling somewhat vindicated. The mayor of New Orleans tried to cancel her. Guess what? It's not happening. Just like it's not happening the way they're trying to cancel Carrie Underwood. It's over, guys, okay? You lost. And guess what? The Christian singer is singing at the Super Bowl. And you know what else? Travis Kelce is actually acting happy about Donald Trump being there. He was asked, let me see if I can find this one for you, because he was just asked whether he was going to be okay with Trump being at the Super Bowl. And I'll tell you, he's growing on me. He had the right response. Listen.
I'm excited because it's the biggest game of my life, and having the president there, it's the best country in the world, so it'd be pretty cool.
It is an honor, right? To have the president at your game. I'll tell you, it's nice to see patriotism coming back to America. It really is. I want to get to a big announcement coming out of the NCAA, a great announcement. But first, quick shout out for our friends over at Balance of Nature. I take my fruits and veggies every day. I credit so far this winter, so good. No colds, despite my kids having them. Maybe my kids need to take this. I could ask them if it's kid proof. Can they take it? Balance of Nature. Use code word Trish. You get 35% off plus free shipping. Plus money back guarantee. If you don't like it, you can return it anytime you want. You can call them at 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751. Give them a ring. Go to the website. There's tons and tons of testimonials, thousands of testimonials on there, because hundreds of thousands, millions of people take this every single year. I'm one of them. I love it. I actually, I don't otherwise get any vitamin D, especially this time of year. We had a snow day, by the way, today in the Northeast. Lots of snow coming in. It turned to rain midday, so the kids weren't too happy. But the point being, not a lot of sun. I need my Balance of Nature. Balance of Nature, fruits and gummies. That's what I take, fruits and veggies, the gummy kind. That's what I take. So very big story going on today. Pam Bondi is going after Leticia, not just because of what's happening in terms of the refusal to deal with the immigration crisis, but she most likely will be going after her because of her refusal to deal with the changes that Donald Trump has made vis-a-vis women's sports. The NCAA coming out today saying, you know what? You got to be a naturally born female if you're going to compete in women's sports at the college level. This is like miraculous. Like, this is huge. This is major. No more Leah Thomas in the swimming pool beating all the other girls. Poor, Riley Gaines. I just wonder if those records should be stripped. Like, maybe we need to take this a step further, because it seems really unfair that records were shattered by people who were born as boys and lived as boys for a long time during formative years. Donald Trump signing this order in.
So, just to finish up, I'm directing the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who, by the way, is doing a fantastic job. In fact, he just left Panama. We're trying to take back the Panama Canal, little things like that. It'll all happen. But Marco is going to make clear to the International Olympic Committees there, and he's going to make it as clear as anybody can make it, that America categorically rejects transgender lunacy. We want them to change everything having to do with the Olympics and having to do with this absolutely ridiculous subject that we even have to talk about this subject. If you went back 10 years or 15 years and you would move forward and listen to this, you'd say, what the hell are they talking about? This is impossible. But you have people out there, Democrats, that are still totally in favor. They can't win the argument. They can't win a debate. They look like fools, and they continue to go on. And it's okay, because as long as they do this and open borders and all of the other things they talk about, transgender everything, all they want to do is transgender and men playing in women's sports and all of these crazy things. And if they continue, I think we're going to end up ultimately, it's not going to matter, because we're never going to go along with them, and we're just going to keep winning elections, right, Mike?
Yeah. Well, change is happening, everyone. Change is happening. We are on the front lines of history. We are taking our country back. And our girls are better off for it. Look at this. My God.
You want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay? Are you ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that.
Amazing.
I want to make this a
I love
really
seeing
good
this.
signature, because this is a big one, right?
It's definitely a big one. In light of just seeing that, I want to tell you guys about a partnership that I'm super proud of and that I wanted to let you know about. You know how much I care about our values being represented, especially amongst our youth. I think it's really hard. I think it's really hard, especially if you're a Christian family in this country right now, because they're coming down, right? Every which way. And this is success. And we're seeing with the Trump administration that hopefully there will be plenty of successes, right? But it's still hard, because they're teaching something that's very much at odds with, I think, who so many of us are. So for those of you that are worried about your children's education path, this is what I wanted to tell you. I'm partnered with the Herzog Foundation, which is just a wonderful, wonderful group. And they have tons of resources, okay? Resources for parents that are thinking about making a change. Maybe you've got grandkids that are thinking about making a change to a Christian school, and they can help guide you. Tons of information. They are the trusted source on American K-12 private education, with a remarkable suite of resources for parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles who are concerned about kids in the public school system and want to make that change to a Christian education. From their online publication, The Lion, to their new podcast, Making the Leap, the Herzog Foundation offers a wide range of advice and information for Christian parents to make the best education decisions that you can for your children. So you can learn more about this today. I put it up on the screen for you, herzogfoundation.com, because things really are changing, right? And in a good way. In fact, I do believe that I heard Donald Trump say today that he wanted to have a little bit more religion in life. Imagine that. A president, well, they're going crazy. Of course, they don't like the idea of that. For some reason, like, God is bad in the world in which they live. Think of that. I actually feel bad for them, because sometimes you need a little something, right? You need to believe in something that's bigger than you. That actually That goes a long way. I mean, especially with kids, for sure. But, you know, they resist this sort of at every turn. And I think that it's disappointing, but they're going to wind up continuing to dig themselves into a hole. Here's Donald Trump speaking today saying, you know what? Nothing wrong with religion. We ought to have more religion in our lives.
In the earliest days of our republic, faith in God has always been the ultimate source of the strength that beats in the hearts of our nation. We have to bring religion back. We have to bring it back much stronger. It's one of the biggest problems that we've had over the last fairly long period of time. We have to bring it back. Thomas Jefferson himself once attended Sunday services held in the old House chamber on the very ground where I stand today. So there could be nothing more beautiful than for us to gather in this majestic place. It is majestic, and reaffirm that America is and will always be one nation under God. At every stage of the American story, our country has drawn hope and courage and inspiration from our trust in the Almighty. Deep in the soul of every patriot is the knowledge that God has a special plan and a glorious mission for America. And that plan is going to happen. It's going to happen. I hope it happens sooner rather than later. It's going to happen.
Yeah. It's happening. It's happening. All right, jump on board. Jump on board, everyone. Things are happening. The MAGA train has left the station. Make sure, if you haven't already, you think about subscribing to my publication, 76 Research. Lots of good ideas, especially for those of you that believe in this opportunity ahead. I think it's going to be amazing. I really, really, really do. I mean that. And it is great to have so many here. I'm looking again at so many familiar faces. If you haven't subscribed to the show, to the channel, please do that. I'm going to be back here live, as always, with you tomorrow. I will see you then. Thanks.